Hello, this is Cozano Titan. Today I'm gonna be reviewing Diced Veggies by Kids Table Board Games. So let's get chopping and see how the gameplay goes.
In Diced Veggies, you will use your cleaver skills to slice your way to the best ingredients to cook delicious dishes from around the world and hype them up to score the most points. To set up Diced Veggies, you'll first roll all the dice into this dice tray. This will set up the Diced Veggie cutting block. One more spot there. All right, so that sets up the block. Then you'll pull the cardboard tray off. You will shuffle the hype deck and put that in the middle of the table. Then you will shuffle the recipe cards and you'll put those in the middle of the table, drawing 3 face-up recipe cards. Then you will deal 2 recipe cards and 1 hype card to each player, and then you will give each player 1 chef token. Then the last thing you'll do to set up the game is you will give the starting player the cardboard cleaver. On your turn, you will be able to do 3 actions. You will cut, cook, and draw. On your cutting action, you'll be cutting dice from this veggie cutting block that we created at the beginning of the game. Now to do that, there's a few rules. The first rule is you can only cut 10 pips or less out of this block. So I could cut this 6 and this 3 out because that's 9, this 2 and this 6 out because it's 8, this 2, 2 and 2 because it's 6, this 2, 4 and 2 because it's 8. And you'll notice that I only talked about dice around the edge because I could only cut out a certain way. So I can't cut from the center. I can't pull stuff out from the center. I have to be able to cut it straight down and then pull it out. So for instance, if I wanted to take this 2, 4, and 2 out, I would cut this straight down, gently trying to cut into these here, and then just pull those out, and those would be the dice that I get this round. Now I could not then go later and try to pull out another 2 because I only get to chop 1 time per turn. So then you would move on to your cooking action. Once you move on to your cooking action, you will use the dice that you chopped out of the block this round and any extra dice that you have left over from other rounds, which at this point I don't have any extra dice. So then you'll use these dice by trying to match the color and the symbol up with these dice. So this would be a pepper, this would be a mushroom, this would be a tomato. So it looks like I don't have the right dice to cook these. So if I didn't have the right dice, I would move on to my draw action. But there is something you can do. You can use your chef token to manipulate your dice. And you can only use this once per resetting of the dice rack. So you'll use it once, you'll lose it until they reset the dice. But you could either change the type of dice it is. So you could change, say, you need an onion. You could change this mushroom to an onion. Or you could change the number, which really you would only need to change the numbers if you were doing a hype card, which I'll explain hype cards in a second. So, for instance, I could cook this because I have a tomato, I have a pepper, and I could turn this into an onion. And so then I would score 4 points at the end of the game if I cook that card. But if I wanted to make some more points, I could try to complete a hype card. And I have this hype card here which says you must have no dice left over. So this one I happen to can complete because I only had 3 dice and I used all 3 dice. So then I could pair this with this card, and at the end of the game I would score 11 points. So I'd put these aside together. So and that would be the end of my cook action. But if you had more dice, you could actually cook more recipes if you had more dice, but at the end of the round, no matter how many dice you've accumulated, you have to discard down to 8 dice. But at this point, I would have no dice, right? All right, now we're going to move on to the draw action. So on the draw action, you can either draw a recipe card from the face-up recipe cards, you could draw from the recipe deck, or you can draw a hype card. Now keep in mind when you're drawing cards that you can only have 2 of each card in your hand at the end of the round. So if you have 2 recipe cards and only 1 hype card, you probably want to draw a hype card. One thing that you may want to consider on your turn during your chop action is when to reset the dice chopping block. Now, you can never reset the chopping block unless there is at least 1 ingredient missing from the block. So at this point, there would be no carrot, so I could choose to take all the dice, except for the ones that people have in the reserve, and roll them back into the dice tray and reset the block before I do my chopping action. Now, the other thing that happens when you reset it, which I had mentioned before, is you give everyone back any chef tokens that they have spent. And then you would continue on your chop action and on with the rest of your turn. Once somebody cooks their 6th recipe, that triggers the end of the game. Each other person will get 1 last turn. Then you will total your recipe points, your hype points, and whoever has the most points wins the game. And that is how you play Diced Veggies.
So what I like about Diced Veggies is, number 1, and probably the most unique thing about the game, is that you are using a physical cleaver. I didn't mean to scare you there. It's a cardboard cleaver, not an actual metal cleaver. That would be pretty scary. But you're using a cardboard cleaver to cut out dice that are symbolizing vegetables, and then you are using that cardboard cleaver to cut them out of the little square. And it's kind of allowing you to cut vegetables without actually cutting vegetables with a metal cleaver. Cardboard cleaver. Because that would not work on real vegetables. And yeah, I do not see many games use the physical route. I usually just see oh, you do this action and then this happens, boom, magic, it doesn't make any sense. But with this game, they made it make all the sense. Another thing I like is the hype cards. I believe without the hype cards, there would be no recipe cards. And maybe that's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I just think that it makes the game so much more fun. If there was no hype cards, you would just be playing cards and being like, yeah, this is pretty fun. But it gives you a whole nother aspect of the game that you've unlocked that kind of lets you go for other goals. Maybe you're trying to add up to exactly 25. You wouldn't be doing that if you just were cooking recipes. It just gives you another goal. And with that, it's oh, but why would I do that if it takes longer? Well, it gives you a bang for your buck because it gives you, a crap ton of points with some of them. Another thing I like is the chef tokens. I like how if, you can't get everything. On one, you have to get really lucky to get all the numbers to align. So, as I said earlier, if you're trying to get, 25 exactly, and you're well, I have 24. Well, you can just put that thing on and change it to a 6 or 2 instead of a 3, stuff like that. And also being oh, I need 2 onions for this recipe, but I only have an onion and a carrot. And then you can change that to an onion and boom. And I just think that's a really cool part of the game. Another thing I like is how the game is the way the turn order structure goes is really, really rigid. And that is a good thing. That is a really good thing because it doesn't confuse you with what's going on. Oh, you can do this over here. No, it's cut, cook, draw every turn. And maybe there's some turns that you don't cook. But that's really it. It's always just that every turn until the game ends. And I just think that's really cool, how consistent it is. And that it doesn't throw you off track and get you confused, especially if you're a new learner of the game. Another thing I like is finally, like, you know, on the hype cards it says things like, it has these little puns like, Dad's secret recipe of chicken soup, you know, stuff like that. And I just think those things are really fun. But a few things I dislike is that in our copy of the box, the components were a bit iffy. Like, the pips came off the dice, and we just, like, couldn't see anything, and we had to, like, draw them in. That's one thing. I'm not sure if that was for everyone's, but definitely for ours. And, you know, the art, it's fine. It does its purpose. And another thing I don't like a lot is that you can really just rush this game. If you really just are like, well, I don't want to play this game, you can just be like, recipe, play 6 cards easily, especially if they're lower vegetable counts. Like, and I just think that's really, really silly that people can make it go that much faster. You know, people usually want to play games for a certain amount of time, and some people don't, so I just wish there was something that would kind of stop that or not trigger the end of the game. But that is what I like and dislike about Diced Veggies. So my silly self forgot to say whether I like or I dislike this board game. And I think I actually, like, this game is really, really fun. I really like it. I mean, I have a special connection to this game because after we bought it at Gen Con, like the night we got back, I just was like, this might be easy. So I opened the rulebook and started reading, and then I was like, alright, and then I watched a video, and then I was good. So, like, I usually have special connections to games that I learn and that I get to teach. So, of course, I love this game. So if you loved this choppin' review, that did not go well, please smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, and smash the notification bell if you want to see more videos like these. And check out my link tree so you can see my YouTube, of course, and my Facebook and Instagram, where you can see behind the scenes stuff, like with Vinny or with updates on live streams, whatever. And also check out my Dice Tower playlist, where you can see every time I've been on Board Game Breakfast. If you want to just zoom to my part or watch the whole thing, you know, who cares? You might be able to see some little Oliver in there too. And also check out my merch store. I know I'm wearing some Pink Coats Nanotype right now, but we just need to get our blue samples and we will be good. But please go buy them. They're really comfortable and really great. And please just go buy my merch. Please. I'm begging you, please. Alright. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.